you. We're so very grateful for the invitation. And my role this morning is to introduce you to the concept of a liberal arts college. And you'll hear many people talk about small liberal arts colleges, and I wanted to start with some basic terminology. Private colleges are self-funded and they function in a pretty autonomous way. You'll find with private colleges that the sticker price for education will be on the high side, but with that, there's a nice balance of funding that is offered so students can make those institutions affordable. We have at our institution very loyal alums, and so they're very generous in the financial aid realm, and you'll find that to be the case at a number of private colleges. So don't be intimidated when you look at the cost of higher education. Also, you might hear people discuss small schools. And of course, the concept of small will be relative. Everybody has their own definition of small. But in the United States, typically schools that have 5,000 undergraduate students or less might fall in that category. You'll also want to get a sense of whether those institutions are focusing on undergraduate education versus graduate school populations. So there will be some distinctions you might find between the terms of college versus university. Colleges tend to focus on the undergraduate experience. Universities will be a little bit more robust in both having undergraduate and graduate programs. So the history of liberal arts colleges, the word liberal, the origin is from the Latin word liber, which means freedom or openness. And arts would inquire areas of study and mastery. It's not just visual art. We will often have students say, oh, I'm not interested in your school because I'm not interested in art and I'm very interested in science. We serve many populations, lots of different disciplines. Liberal arts scholars can be very well versed in many different academic disciplines. So we will often say liberal arts and science to reinforce the fact that students can master science areas as well as arts. So think of it in a very broad term. The very first liberal art college in the United States was actually Harvard University in 1636. So the goal is to prepare citizens to be well equipped for a really good life, not just a profession or a job. You don't want to be just a specialist. You want to be very versatile. You want to be adaptable. You want to be able to use a really broad skill set. So you'll find courses that are offered and required of students in natural science, social science, humanities. So it'll be this very nice, lovely blend of a lot of different areas, but you will get an opportunity to then specialize a bit more in areas of your greatest interest. So when you think about liberal arts colleges, you want to think about the features and how those translate to benefits. So you will often find one feature would be smaller class sizes. So you will find that lends itself to more engagement, both from the students and the professors. I think students will often learn as much from their peers as they might when they are in, they're interacting with their professor. I think it's really this very full experience where students are learning from lots of different people and they're growing as scholars from that daily interaction. The academic requirements that you take outside of your major and minor areas of study will be really beneficial as well. You become a stronger thinker, integrated foundation for your chosen discipline, but you really can supplement your areas of major and minor study with other academic disciplines. You'll pull in information from lots of different fields, making you just very well versed across the board. You'll also have the opportunity to study more than one content area, and I think this really helps students who aren't prepared to narrow their choices down. You get to kind of dabble at the beginning in many different areas, and I think by virtue of process of elimination, sometimes students will find out what their true passion is. You might be a student who has not had the opportunity to take a class in sociology, so you get to take that class, have a response and figure out whether that's something you want to pursue or maybe shift your focus to something else. So there's a later timeline for many of these small or just liberal arts colleges. We won't ask you to declare majors or minors until maybe spring of the sophomore year. So I think that allows students to have this wonderful time of self-exploration where you really get to reflect on what you're doing and make some personal decisions for yourself that will set you up for a really productive future. Skills-based requirements. This is where I think the greatest benefit might come. You'll have a lot of opportunities to develop your skills in analysis, in writing, and all different types of writing, creative writing, as well as more analytical writing, your communication skills. You're going to be doing oral presentations. You're going to be doing group work. You're going to get to collaborate with a lot of your classmates. Computation. All of these skills are strengthened in a liberal arts setting. So also, I would say that in smaller classes, you are going to have more accountability and more ownership and more mastery. And I think that is where others start investing in you, and you start getting a sense of really what your potential is. Your professors will get to know you well enough so that they can challenge you or they can help you get up to speed just based on sort of where you are and what potential they identify in you, and they can help you flourish and help you thrive. Also, you're going to find access to all the resources that undergraduates need. So in liberal arts environments, you'll often find that even as a first-year student, you can use high-level research equipment in the lab facilities. You can have access to supplemental and experiential learning programs. And so that access is going to be really key. You will also find a lot of personalized mentoring. This really is kind of the norm for liberal arts colleges. It's not the exception. The professors and the staff members in these institutions are very interested in your development and will actively contribute to your growth as a scholar and as a person. So the personalized mentoring, I think, is a great benefit for sure. Social life, I think sometimes students assume if I go to a really big university, I'm going to have a more fulfilling social life. And that may not always be the case. I think the beauty of the college process is there are different environments that really kind of suit a student's personality. But I think students need to do themselves a favor by exploring and really making some decisions and being open to considering lots of different opportunities and community dynamics. And in a small school, you get to see people, you get to cross paths more frequently. And so the ability to make those really meaningful relationships and establish those lifetime relationships, they just kind of happen organically. And there's access, you get to, like I said, visit with your professors quite a bit. You're going to know your classmates really well. And if you know anything about the Dunbar number, this is a theory that individuals can really only foster about 150 meaningful contacts and relationships at a time. And when I think about my own situation, I find that to be very true. If you're having meaningful relationships, you want to contribute to those in a very valuable way. And small liberal arts colleges will allow you an easy way to connect and foster those relationships. One of the things I would also say, I kind of highlighted this at the beginning, is that financial aid is going to be a number of places more generous than you might anticipate. So I really encourage students to not be deterred by the price tag at the beginning of the college process, but connect with individuals in those schools. A lot of schools will have an identified counselor or two who work closely with students from certain areas. And what we'll do is want to make sure that we're educating families about all the steps to explore what the financial resources are, whether that be merit only, merit and institutional aid, need-based aid. And so we tell students to make sure you're asking all the right questions and you're connecting with the appropriate individuals so you can really learn about what the benefits are. But as I said, I think one mistake students make is they write schools off at the beginning because they're not sure they can afford that. And so I think it's best to schedule some time. And I think you've gotten really good advice this morning on how you can plan your timetable and really explore what your options are at a variety of schools. But I think that's where I'll stop and welcome questions at the time that we get to Q&A. But thank you for your time this morning. I hope you found that to be a nice introduction to the benefit of a liberal arts institution.